I love you. Hey ho, and welcome back, Couch Potatoes. So happy to have you back here with us.
Taters.
I am the Green Traveler from Gorsh.
And I am the Faceless Leon. Thank you so much for listening. I mean that so much. This is a podcast about movies and TV. We're bringing back some good old spooky movies because, we just got a third of a trilogy here.
Yeah, we got a new release. You know, if there's one universe out there, you know, every production company right now wants its own cinematic universe. And if there's one universe that can rival Marvel's, it would be the Conjuring universe, which is what we're talking about today, because they had their third film came out a couple weeks ago for us.
Well, it's not their third film. It's the third film in the chronology.
Yeah, it's the third Conjuring film.
Yeah.
But it's the 8th film in the Conjuring universe. And, you know, I started watching these just a little before the third one came out, so I had enough time to watch all 8 films just to refresh myself.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, let's talk first before we dive into the movies. Let's talk first about our experience with The Conjuring.
Sure.
I believe we've seen 3 of the films together. We've seen The Conjuring, The Conjuring 2, and Annabelle. And I think we saw all 3 of those in the theaters, too.
Yeah, I think so. Conjuring might have been a rental. I don't know.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about that, I might have seen that one with some high school friends, I think.
Well, it came out 2013, so we were in undergrad. So we probably did see it together.
Yeah, I'm not sure anymore.
We saw it around the same time.
I know specifically that we watched Annabelle together.
Yeah.
Because we laughed our asses off throughout the entire movie. If I love horror movies, I don't want to laugh at them. You know, there are so many bad horror movies out there. There's so many movies that just bore me because they rely so much on like jump scares or like really stupid sound effects and everything. And Annabelle is like one of those where it just tried so hard to make you jump and cared so little about setting anything up. Maybe if I would rewatch it, I would have a different feeling about it. Mm-hmm. But from what I've seen, I'm fairly sure that what I felt that first time was how everybody else felt, because it doesn't really have many good reviews. Well,
it's hard to get good reviews when you make it just a mediocre movie.
Right.
Yeah.
I just remember the final big act in that movie. It's supposed to be so traumatic and everything. And you and I were both like just burst out laughing when it happened. And like I remember somebody in the audience just being like, "Fucking shut up!" Like, but it's like, I'm sorry, we couldn't. It was so bad.
It was. I'm pretty sure Sarah was with us, and she might have been one of the people who were upset about it. I can't remember if she was laughing with us or not.
Well, see, like I never want to be that person in the theater, but that movie evoked that response. It was horrible.
It did. It's just like,
they tried so hard.
We've seen that storyline work already, like with Child's Play, and all the other Chucky's movies.
And well, that's even supposed to be like the terror behind it, is that this one's not the doll. It's a demon behind the doll. It's supposed to be even more frightening. But that first Annabelle movie,
Chucky wasn't just the doll. He was a guy.
He was a serial killer. Yeah, he was
doll.
A serial killer trapped in a doll. Like, it was still a doll that was the horror. You know, it's like you still saw a little doll running up to you. Like in real life, yes, I would be terrified.
Yeah,
but I'm also grabbing a baseball bat and swinging. Like, I'm not that scared of it. It's like 1 foot tall, and it runs very slowly.
Right. So you're saying that because the thing inhabiting the doll is more omnipresent than that.
Yeah, it has more control. It's supposed to be more terrifying. And if I remember correctly, that first movie is more like Chucky, where it's like, I can't remember specifically, but I remember somebody murdering somebody, and then that ghost inhabiting the doll. You know,
I don't remember
that tale.
I don't remember at all.
Yeah,
that last scene, you had to say it was supposed to be super traumatic. I mean, I don't think I'm going to give anything away that I think it involves a window. That's all I remember.
Exactly. It involves a window and something very similar to the ending of The Exorcist. The Exorcism.
Okay. The Exorcism. Okay. Those are different
Or
movies.
The Exorcist. Wait.
Are they?
Exorcist.
The
Exorcist.
Okay.
Yeah, the great one. Like
the great one.
The awesome one. Fuck. I can't remember. They're all mixing together in my dyslexic brain. But
hey, we've all been there.
But yeah, it's weird that something like Annabelle came from The Conjuring. And it's also weird that they went deep in on 3 Annabelle films before they went in on 3 Conjuring films. Yeah. Because I'll say up front, as we talk the first 2 Conjuring films, which are obviously older than the new released third one. Mm-hmm. I love those first 2 films. I think they're great. And the first 2 Annabelle films, the second one was decent. It tried. It wasn't good. It was decent. No, I like the director. He tried. I can't remember his name. It's like Dennis Sandberg or something like that. I'm not going to edit that out. I'm going to leave that in. It's completely wrong. It's like David Sandberg or something like that. But Dan Sandberg. I'm really like focused on the Sandberg part. I'm sure that's right.
That part's right. Okay. It's Dr. Sandberg, director of Dolls and Scare 'Em.
Which one was that? That's not Annabelle Comes Home, but that's Annabelle Creation or something like that. Annabelle Origin. Yeah. It's okay. It's much better than Annabelle. It has some good scares, I remember, because I saw that one alone in the theaters and I didn't laugh at it. So, that's a plus. That's a step up. And then Annabelle Comes Home, I didn't even give that a shot when it was out in theaters. I just watched that this week before we started reviewing these because I wanted to watch more of the Conjuring films. And Annabelle Comes Home was actually kind of fun. It was competent. It was funny. It focused on children. Well, not really children. 2 teenagers and 1 younger child, like older child, I would say. Like probably under 10 or 11. The daughter of the Warrens. She was the child. So it was actually kind of funny. Like it was, I mean, it was still scary. It wasn't like a comedy horror or anything, but it had some good relievers. There's some good comedy relief moments, and that one was a competent horror. I was actually surprised. I was like, wow, it took them 3 shots, but they finally got an Annabelle film. But I would not have greenlit that one before greenlighting a 3rd Conjuring movie.
No, I don't think so.
Because these are great.
Yeah, these are good. I like them to varying degrees, but they definitely are pretty good horror movies. But they're almost like if you took a horror movie and then wrote it as if it was an episode of Law and Order, because of like the text slides and stuff like that. And like I could almost in the back of my head hear the bun dun.
That's that's just classic. Like that's shouting out to the 60s, 70s horror tropes. That's how a lot of those old intros were. Yeah. Like the opening crawl to The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2. I fucking love it. Like that sets me so in the mood for these types of films. Like they immediately hook me, and I'm just like, oh, I'm settling down to have a good time right now. Let's just dive right on in, I guess. To The Conjuring, the first one, directed by James Wan. And I like that you mentioned they're like a Law and Order style episode because people have criticized James Wan, and I wholeheartedly agree with this criticism, but I don't think it's a criticism. But they've said that he is the fast food of horror. Huh. I think that's how somebody put it. Like he puts out a horror movie that is just, it's efficient. It does the job. It's sloppy. It's there. It's good. You're okay with it. It's not pristine horror. It's not it's not The Lighthouse or it's not a masterpiece of horror. And it's definitely nowhere near bad. It does the job and feeds you well. It's fast food, and I wholeheartedly agree. And I think that's a-okay. Like, yeah,
I have nothing wrong with this movie.
The first one's definitely not.
Yeah, definitely not on this movie. I would say like sure, it's maybe not a masterpiece, but man, I feel like calling it fast food's a little harsh, because this is a pretty damn good horror movie. Like, it's one that I actually don't mind returning to. I also think, like, because it focuses on these real world people, like, obviously this is highly dramatized, but I think that because there's some historical context, it's that much more interesting to me.
I would say the criticism comes specifically about James Wan as a horror director, not just specifically about this film, but like this includes the Insidious movies, and the Conjurings 1, 2, and then all of the whole spinoffs of the Conjuring universe too. You got The Nun, Annabelle, The Curse of La Llorona, like all of these films that are under his oversight kind of feel like fast food horror. He's just pumping out these like cheap thrills. But I agree with you. It is kind of insulting to this first film because I think this first film is just fucking phenomenal.
It's really well done.
It's written by Chad and Carrie Hayes, and it stars Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson as Lorraine and Ed Warren, who are two demonologists. I don't know if they coined that term for themselves, or if I'm sure they didn't coin the term, but yeah, they're called demonologists because they work with the Catholic Church to investigate the paranormal.
Right. She's a medium, and he's the only person sanctioned by the church to either perform or assist in exorcisms.
I think he's like the only non-member of the church sanctioned by the church. That's what I meant. Yeah. In real life, outside of this Conjuring universe, I personally, though I don't want demonic possession to happen to me or someone I love, I would love to see. I'm an atheist, but I would love to see it. That would be so cool for me to like. I mean, it would be terrifying and horrible for the person it would be happening to.
Right.
But I want paranormal. I want to see.
Yeah, it would be an eye opener. Like, it would be like, okay, there is more than what I give credit for.
I'm definitely the type of person who would still focus on the science behind it. Be like, how can I make this make sense? I would try I would try to destroy the paranormal behind it. I'm that character in the movie. But I want to see this kind of stuff. It just really intrigues me. This is the type of horror that I'm all in on. But in real life, I still would call the Warrens whack jobs.
Oh yeah.
I don't believe in anything that they said is true. I don't believe any of these cases actually happened. I think these people might have just had a mental illness and should have seen like an actual psychiatrist or therapist, or probably been put in an asylum somewhere.
I'm not a believer in this stuff and any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I feel like a lot of people who call themselves mediums really just take advantage of people.
Yeah.
But
they like the attention.
There are a lot, there's a lot of people though in these people's career that really testify that they helped them. I guess if at the end the family feels like, they're better for the experience,
liberated.
Yeah, then who are we to say? But
that's fair.
Especially if it's like a kid who like maybe does have a mental illness or is faking it for attention, and then these people come and then it's over, and then the family it can be over for them.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes into play, I think, specifically for the second film.
Right.
So we'll try to remember going into that, but the child begging for attention kind of storyline.
Right.
But especially whether it's like a hoax or not, it's like how the family reacts, and how the movie also kind of dramatizes it, because in the second one there's a lot of dramatization around the Warrens because they were not invited, and when they showed up they were denied access. They were like, no, we do not want you to be here. Like the possession, all that kind of stuff that that happens in the second movie never happened. When they arrived in Enfield, they were denied entry by the family. The family was like, we do not want you here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they totally play that the opposite of that. Like they're pretty like comfy cozy listening to Elvis together. That's kind of fucked up.
It's weird, but at the same time, I love this universe for that, because this universe only asks one thing of you, and that is to just accept that the Warrens are telling the truth, that this shit is real.
Right.
And also, even if they weren't in real life, the Warrens of this movie universe are just the kindest hearted, loving people ever.
They're good people.
And with Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga behind that couple, I'm 100% on board accepting that because their chemistry is amazing. Like, the only reason really I return for the Conjuring movies are for those two characters. Like,
that's fair.
I like the second movie. Like, we'll talk more about it, of course, but I like the second movie, except that it's so familiar to the first movie that if it didn't have Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, I'd be like, I'm not that interested. I didn't watch The Nun.
It would just be another haunting movie.
Exactly.
So should we jump into the plot of this first one? I think maybe a little bit more. So I think we talked about what the Warrens do pretty much, but there is like this process they have to go through. They have to prove it to the church to get the priest to come and perform the exorcism. And it's a long process, and it's probably for the world of this movie, it's too long of a process because people get hurt and shit. Anyhow, the Perron family, they moved from New Jersey to, I don't know where this is set. I don't care. Anyways, they move into this house, but there is this demonic presence there, which is scaring their like 5 or 15 daughters. I can't remember.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's my only issue with the first movie is that I can never remember how many fucking kids are in this family because
they're all girls. Though.
They disappear. They all disappear constantly.
They do, and that's part of the horror of it. So Roger and Carolyn, I believe, reared Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April. And I think that's in age order. IMDb has it in age order. That's strange. The younger two girls definitely have the creepiest experiences because, they're young girls and it's a horror movie and it does it to you every time. And eventually they come in and they try to prove
they being
that
the Warrens.
This shit is actually going on. The Warrens do, yes, that this shit's actually going on. They finally get the person there. They find out the motive of the demon, and
which we should talk about that.
We should talk about that.
I guess that's another issue I have with this movie, and it's not really an issue because everything is so horrifying and well done that I really like it. But the bad spirit behind everything, I can't remember her name. I think it's Bathsheba.
Yes,
she's a Salem witch who murdered children.
I think
she sacrificed children to Satan.
That was probably it. That part is kind of brushed under, I feel like. They don't go into that enough.
It's not heavily focused, but that she is the evil witch that's behind everything that's going on, kind of. And, that's one of my only issues is, believing that the Salem witches actually sacrificed children to Satan.
Right.
It's a gray area. I don't appreciate that.
No, because it was they massacred women.
Yeah, that's not a good connection to make, but that is the real life connection. That's what it was with the Warrens files and everything, and that it's a tiny mar on the movie, but God, I still, as you said, it's kind of brushed over. They kind of just like push that information aside as fast as they can because like even they don't want to focus on it. They want to focus on the horror, and the horror is so well focused on.
There's some really good stuff. So first off, the first thing that the parents find is that they have a boarded up cellar. And and when they unboard that up, and there's no light going down there, and the dad just asks for matches. Come on, Roger. What are you fucking like that? For all you know, there could be like some fucking gas down there or something, and what the fuck ever. But anyways,
so stupid.
He goes down there with just matches, and there's like a creepy old piano down there, and a whole bunch of other shit. And that's where a big portion of the haunting takes place in this creepy cellar that the family didn't even fucking know about.
Yeah, if you got a massive room with a shit ton of furniture and there's like tablecloths covering everything, which that's one thing I'm always concerned by whenever I see a horror movie is like, who put all these tablecloths over everything? Like, I never understand that. I never understand that.
To keep it from getting dust damage.
But who did it? If they're just going to leave it there, like they clearly didn't care.
It's in storage.
they didn't care. They were just like, fuck this shit. They're just putting it off. But if you have a room like that anywhere in your house, like immediately sell that shit. Like if you learn anything from the 2 Conjuring movies, the first 2 at least, that is sell those houses. Yeah, if you have a giant open space with covered furniture everywhere, get the fuck out.
If it's not a usable space, don't live there. Okay, so anyhow, eventually Bathsheba inhabits Carolyn, which that is a spoiler, I guess. But I just wanted to mention that this is the part where I got pretty confused. So, for this film, they had Vera Farmiga dye her hair a darker color than I'm used to her having. Because I know her mostly from being Norma Bates, which is another problem I actually have with this series, is because I'm so used to watching Norma Bates, everything that Lorraine does, even though I know is supposed to be genuine, I always see this snideness that's Norma Bates's character, and it's just not there. Like, Vera's not trying to do that for this character, but
no,
she just plays Norma so well that it's hard to separate that.
That's fair.
But anyhow, because of the hair color change and because they're a similar build, I was constantly, the first time I watched this, getting Carolyn and Lorraine confused. So I kept on thinking like, oh, wait, when did Mrs. Warren get possessed? And I kept on getting confused. I got less confused the second time I saw it.
Yeah, I wonder if that might have been a lighting thing, because I know it's very dark in the theaters,
it is very dark
on the screen. Whereas on our TV, on my TV screen at least, I keep it pretty bright. So it's like, I don't know, rewatching I didn't have any issue because it might have just been the brightness of it, though.
Yeah, I think it was just that theater experience, really. And also, we were in undergrad. Let's just say I was distracted.
But yeah, there's everything in this first movie. It's a haunted house movie. There's an exorcism in it. There's possession. Like, it gets criticism from people for being like similar to Amityville Horror or similar to The Exorcist or The Poltergeist.
Well, I mean, they are the Amityville Horror people. I mean, exactly. They are not really in that movie, I don't think. But
yeah, I can't remember.
They are the people who investigate.
Yeah, and personally, I like this so much more than the Amityville Horror movie. I like it more than Poltergeist. Like, a lot of people like Poltergeist. I'm okay with it. I like the goofy elements of it. Yeah, for me, I think it's just a little too goofy, but it's whatever. I mean, nothing's beating The Exorcist. Like, that's fucking phenomenal.
Right.
But, I don't care that it's similar to those because James Wan is such a level of control over everything that I just don't care. It's so fucking good. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
This is good horror. Like,
it's well directed. So I'm sorry that people give him that criticism, but I guess it's probably not for this movie, because this movie's pretty well done. So I feel like we should maybe move on to closing statements for this one, because we got 2 other movies to talk about. I would say that it's a pretty good movie. I give it a full face and definitely recommend it. Like, it's scary. There's I would say only a few jump scares, really, and it still remains to be quite exhilarating. So, it's just proof that you don't need that in your film.
Yeah.
So go watch the movie. Go watch The Conjuring.
Yeah. I mean, and those jump scares, he earns those jump scares with how he builds his tension. Right. Like, the music is eerie. Like, he does great sound design. And everything is so well handled in this film that I give it 4 stars, and wow. And again, it's mostly because of Vera and Patrick, because like, I just fucking love the characters in these movies. Like, they are so good. Even though I am an atheist and don't agree with a lot of the stuff that they're putting out in a horror movie, I eat that shit up.
Yeah,
it's good.
Works. They're going to fight for their lives, obviously, but they also have faith that because they have God on their side that they're going to do good. And it makes for an interesting story.
It really do.
So tell me about The Conjuring 2.
It's The Conjuring 2. It's the Enfield case in United Kingdom. And again, as we've already mentioned, they take great creative liberty with this one. Real life.
Wow.
Not a lot of this happened. The family was trying to keep it relatively out of the public atmosphere. And the Warrens being there kind of brought it further into it.
In the movie, Maurice Grosse, I feel like he has a big part of making it very public. So, yeah, I think that at least in the movie perspective, that was already happening by the time they got there. But
yeah,
I don't know. I didn't look up any of the like true story stuff for this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is kind of something that I haven't like researched, but it's something I want to research because I love the Warrens. Like,
yeah, it's such an interesting.
Even though I
thing.
hate the Warrens, The Conjuring has made me love the Warrens to where I'm kind of like I want to read. I want to read the original Amityville Horror by Jay Anson. And that's the big thing that's going on in this movie. Is the first movie took place in 1971. This one takes place 1977, and in that time they had the Amityville Horror hoax. So the Warrens were very adamant that it was a real demonic possession, that It was terrifying. But the problem is, Jay Anson, the author of the novel, and some other people who were involved in the making of the film, as well as the haunting itself, say they cooked it all up over a couple beers at a bar. They say it's all fake, that the Warrens are completely off their ass and just, lying nut jobs. It basically puts the Warrens' entire career at stake.
Yeah.
Do they continue doing this? Do they continue making fools of themselves, going out and trying to help people by curing all these paranormal activities?
And Vera says no.
And Vera says no because she has seen and has been haunted by a demon that takes the form of a nun.
Yeah, and that nun is played by Bonnie Aarons.
Ooh.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah, she's creepy.
Think they really say anything, but she does a really good job being that scary ass nun.
Yeah, so again, I've already mentioned. I think that my biggest issue with the second movie is its familiarity. It's just another haunted house, demonic possession kind of feel. They have some different twists. It's a ghost being used by a demon. The demon is the nun, whereas in the last one it was a witch named Bathsheba or whatever.
Right,
and. I do like some of the progressions they do in this film, and there are a lot of good scares, specifically that nun scare, that the one I'm talking about with the painting.
Yes.
God, I love that.
Very well set up, yeah.
Oh, it's so good. And because how I watch horror, I'm not ashamed to say this, how I watch horror is through the fucking, lines of my fingers. I like to cover my face. I'm scared of that shit. I love feeling scared. I love that. And when I'm in the theaters, I'll be like closing my eyes a little bit because it's scaring me. I could not do that for the nun shot. That was such a well-executed horror that I was like, I have to see this because I'm scared as fuck and I need to know when this is going to happen. Yeah. It's terrifying. It was so good. But, that's kind of also the issue is like they set up so many good scares that when you get to the ending, I don't give a rat's ass about that final act. When they're banishing the demon.
I actually okay, so I would say that I cared a little bit more this time around for the end of the movie than I did when we went to see it in the theaters. Because I don't know why, but I feel like I just kind of overlooked the scene where she has the vision on the airplane and gets to talk to the actual ghost. Bill Wilkins. Oh. Man, we're really being spoiler heavy, I feel like. But
yeah.
Oops.
Oops, indeed.
But anyhow, I feel like that kind of drew me in rather, a little bit more.
That's fair.
Than it usually does. Oh, speaking of Drew, in all three of these movies are a character that gets absolutely no story spotlight named Drew Thomas. played by Shannon Cook.
See the cameraman?
And he's their photographer. He gets absolutely nothing. They did more for the fucking sheriff character or deputy character.
Brad.
Yeah, they gave Sheriff Brad more screen time than Drew Thomas, who works on them on like almost every case. He doesn't even have a speaking line, I don't think, in the second episode.
I was gonna say, I was like, he has a lot in the first one. He
does have a lot
good supportive character.
And but they hardly use him at all in the second one. Like, though I don't know that he comes to England with them. I can't actually remember.
I don't think he does. No, he's in the beginning though, but he doesn't have a line.
Yeah, then he's in the third one, and he helps him out in like a big way in the third one. But it's kind of out of nowhere. And once again, there's just absolutely no story development in his character. And I think it's very disappointing because there's also one of my favorite cinematic moments of the first movie. It was a montage that actually works. They spin around on the door frames and it's just showing him setting up cameras in different rooms. That's a fucking great shot. It's awesome. Good. And they just never go into this character, and I feel really bad for Shannon Cook for that.
They parallel that later, too, when they have the camera on the ceiling, and it flips upside down when he runs underneath it, and it's following him, like, when they're all running around the house going nuts. Like, I love how the camera's just constantly going upside down, and it's spinning everywhere. Like,
yeah.
The cinematography in that first one's amazing.
In the first one, definitely amazing.
Yeah, but in the second one, there are still some good cinematographical moments. But yeah, his character is never focused on, sadly. And I agree, it is a huge loss because he's really good in that first movie.
Yeah.
But he's not in the second one at all, really. And going back to all the way back to when we were talking about the Amityville Horror, but that's what's plaguing them in the second movie. That's what's driving this second movie.
Right.
Is that they kind of become absorbed into this case, the Enfield case, against Vera's will. She doesn't want to, Lorraine's will. She doesn't want to really be there. She's scared her husband's going to die or something.
And Ed's like, we never back away from a fight.
Exactly. He's like, God did this for a reason.
Ghost fighter machismo right there.
We're Ghostbusters. And yeah, so they're brought into this against their will, but there is that the hoax of the Amityville Horror case hanging over their heads. The Catholic Church doesn't want it to hurt their image anymore, so the Catholic Church is like really like, don't enter this if you think it's a fake. And there's a lot of good evidence that implies the girl might be faking it.
Right.
Now, from the audience's perspective, we see that it's not fictionalized. We see that it's, she is possessed, that this shit's happening to the family. But it is done in a way that we could understand where Ed and Lorraine would be worried about it, where they would be questioning whether it's real or not. And it's really well done. I love that aspect of this film, that questioning of the horror, whether or not it's real. There's one really good scene too where Ed is trying to talk to the ghost that's possessing the young girl, and he turns his back, and she's sitting in the corner in the chair where the ghost usually sits. And, they have the cameras rolling and everything, and everybody has their backs turned. And Ed just starts questioning the ghost. And at first, it's just the young girl. You just hear her normal voice. And then she slowly gets taken over by Bill. Was that his name? Bill Wilkins? Watkins?
That's right. Bill Wilkins.
Yeah, that scene is so good because she's out of focus in that whole shot. It's just a close-up of Ed's face. And behind him, out of focus, you can see the girl. And it slowly just transitions into this man. It slowly becomes the ghost. Yeah. So well done. I love those effects. Like, that's where those first two Conjuring movies go above and beyond for me.
Right.
Is those good in-camera horror movements. Like, they have jump scares. They have those silly little, like, loud sound effects that irritate me a little bit, but they earn it with the tension.
Yeah, that tent thing. It was really drove me insane a little bit.
I had said they earned it with the tension, but you're right. Yeah. There is a tent that is terrifying. I hate everything with that tent. It's so scary. There's another, besides the nun, there is another creepy ghost demon like aspect of this film that people talk about, and it's getting its own spinoff movie, and I just can't stand it. And that's the creepy man or the crooked man.
The crooked man. Wow.
Yeah.
They're giving that
it's
something,
stupid.
Huh?
Yeah, that's one of my like that's where this movie dropped the ball for me. Is there's this big CGI scare scene where you think what is a dog becomes the Crooked Man.
Yeah,
it doesn't scare me.
I like
it's
the
bad
song
CGI.
though. The song's catchy.
The song is good. And when she like walks in and she's like, you have the silhouette, but then she walks in instead of this Crooked Man silhouette. I like those scares, but God, the Crooked Man is just not scary. Like, it's just a CGI monstrosity.
That's true. But what year was this movie?
2016.
2016. Okay, so they have 5 years, or they're still probably this is still probably pre-production, right? This Crooked Man movie, they got at least 5 years of CGI improvement.
Well, they can make it scary. I'm just saying, in this movie, the Crooked Man was not scary.
No,
and it was a stupid. It was a
I
stupid.
think it had
spin.
Potential. I think it had potential, but they really almost kind of went Spider-Man 3 on this a little bit.
Yeah,
because you got Bill Wilkins, the Crooked Man, and this nun,
the nun Valak.
Yeah, but they're really all just Valak, as you said. That's definitely spoilers.
How is that? How is that spoiler? There's one person out there who's like, oh, Valak demon? Oh God! Everybody else is like, Valak? Who's Valak? I don't know that demon. It's not spoilers. It's just a name.
Well, I think that the way that they reveal it in the show, I feel like that it is a spoiler for the movie. But anyhow, you'll just have to, either hate us for that or forgive us. So, should we do closing statements on this one?
Yeah, I'm down for that. I do like the second one. It's still a good horror movie. Yeah. It's a good possessed haunted house. It's got everything. James Wan behind the whole thing is still great. He still directs really well. Vera and Patrick are still phenomenal in these roles, but it's very familiar. It has a lot of scares that just kind of just don't get me. There's this one scare where Bill Wilkins is like, "It's my house!" He screams at the woman. I was laughing so hard when he did that. It was almost like an Annabelle moment, but it never dips to that Annabelle level. It's still competent. It's still a fun horror movie that I recommend. And I like the hoax angle. I like the idea that the girl could be faking it.
Yeah, the girl who's possessed, I believe her name's Janet. I'm not sure. But she does a really good job, I think, acting-wise.
And, the only, aside from, small nitpicks and little issues here and there, I mean, there is there's sleepwalking in the first one, and there's sleepwalking in the second one, and,
it's just very similar.
It all gets muddled and confusing for me. And the fact that they made The Nun another spinoff, the first movie spun off Annabelle, this one spun off The Nun. The Nun's not bad. I didn't hate. I watched that movie and it was okay. The Curse of La Llorona was so much worse, but The Nun was bleh. All right. It had some good atmospheric set pieces, but the movie itself was bad. But The Conjuring 2, good. I give it 3 stars. I recommend it. It's still fun horror. It hasn't gotten bad.
Well, I definitely call it a full-face movie, but it definitely, especially right at the beginning there, first impression of this movie is, it's happening again, but in England.
Dun, dun, dun.
It starts off like it feels like it starts off with the ominous music, and then it turns to sitcom happy laugh track,
right?
Oh, we're doing it in a different country. Yeah,
everything's on the right side of the road now. Oh, it was the left side of the road. Oh,
that's okay. You want to set up the joke again, or are you just gonna keep it like that?
No, I'm just gonna keep it like that. I'm okay looking like an idiot.
All right, that's fine. I'm okay with you looking like an idiot too.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure I make much more of a fool of myself than you do on this show. But anyways, as I said,
rate it?
No, I did. Yes, it's a full-face movie. Go see it. it is very similar to the first one. I think the first one's better, but why not watch this second movie, which does a pretty good job? There's things about it that I like less about the first one.
You know, if you really, really like the first one, it's easy to sit down and watch the second one not too long after it. The question is, can you do that with number 3, The Conjuring? The Devil Made Me Do It.
The Devil Made Me Do It.
Little segue into the
devil
third one
all
there.
the time.
The Devil. No, that's a different movie.
That's a different
I think.
Movie. It is. We watched that.
This one came out this year, and it is the first of the Conjuring 3 to not have James Wan directing it. It's Michael Chaves, who I watched the Conjuring 3, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, before I watched The Curse of the La Llorona. But if I had watched Curse of La Llorona, I would have had very, very low hopes for Conjuring 3.
Oh, wow.
Curse of La Llorona, it has very little connection to the Conjuring universe. And I think it's only part of the Conjuring universe because James Wan produced it and said it was. Like, I guess it might have been one of the Warrens' cases, but like, I don't even think they're mentioned in the movie. I don't remember them being mentioned.
Maybe they consulted on it or something.
Yeah.
Like somebody
I have no idea. But the movie itself is not it. There's a good idea there, but Michael Chaves just goes all in for the I don't care jump scare horrors. Like he's just like, oh, this is gonna happen and it's coming at your face now. Ooh, it's like I don't fucking care. I'm not paying attention. But with The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which is set in like the 1980s. You know, it's not too long after the second movie.
But the Warrens never look as old as they're supposed to.
No, they always look the exact same, basically.
Yeah. And this movie's almost like came out 8 years later than that first movie, and they still just look exactly the same.
Right.
I mean, good job, Patrick and Vera.
I guess technically it's only 10 years later in cinema universe years, so yeah, if they haven't aged at all in real life.
Yes, that's fair, except for I'm pretty sure that in those first movies they were supposed to be older than they are too. Like I always thought Ed Warren was like, I don't know. He looks like he was always 60 years old.
He is definitely a heavier set man, I think.
That too. But
I don't know specifically, but I would say in the run of these films, I would say they're in their late 30s to early 50s, somewhere around there.
That's probably fair.
Which I think they look similar to that. But the Devil Made Me Do It is a complete tangent from what we've gotten used to with the Conjuring films. We've been focusing on possession and haunted house. And then this one's like, all right, we're changing up the formula, which, you know, if you are into criminology in any way, you've heard of this case because, like, you know, anybody who watches crime podcasts and all those, like, murder podcasts, they've heard of the Devil Made Me Do It case. It's very, very popular. You know, it was the first case. Well, I mean, but do you watch dead crime podcasts where people talk about murder all the time?
No, I don't.
That's like all the women I work with are like obsessed with these kind of podcasts. But it's the first case in American history, maybe, but in modern American history at least, where somebody claimed that they killed somebody because the devil made me do it, because a demon possessed them and you know, guided their hand. There's a lot to say about this movie glorifying such an action. Again, from a real life perspective, I think the dude murdered somebody. Yeah, and then the Warren stepped in and tried to make it so much more than what it was, which was the dude was insane and murdered somebody.
Right. But they only do this because they did get a personal connection from one of their cases. So, like, from a real world perspective, I don't know. I guess I don't know if the heart attack that's cut that.
Well, I do think that's. No, I think that actually needs to be kept in because that's the big point of this film. The plot is they're trying to help this guy be free, you know, not go to jail, not be executed for murder. I can't remember if the death penalty is part of it or not.
I think that they're trying to avoid the death penalty.
Yeah, I think so. And they're using all of their demonology powers. They're investigating a haunt. This isn't a haunted house movie where we're investigating or trying to exorcise a possession. This is more of a detective thriller where we're investigating a haunt, trying to solve it so that we could, free this criminal.
I 100% would say this movie did not feel like a horror movie most of the movie.
No.
Which I don't know how I feel about that.
I feel disappointed about that. I feel really disappointed about that because the Conjuring films, especially those first two, are great horror films.
They really are, yeah.
And if they want to explore this film, that's fine, but I don't think they should attach the Conjuring name to it. I think this should just be another of their spin-off films. It doesn't have to be part of that. It doesn't have to be part of their Avengers series. It's it could be one of their lower level, like, here's another case in the Warren Files.
I think, though, because this one, like you said, is so popular in the world's eye.
My dog's about to howl.
And that the Warrens are involved in it, that's why it becomes the third chapter of this movie franchise that has several spinoffs.
I was trying to listen so hard, but my dog was howling the whole time.
I know.
Oh, man. Sorry, what did you say?
Great podcast work. So anyhow, because the Warrens are involved in this movie, and because of its world renown, I feel like that's why it became the third movie in this series. But they could have just done more to make more horror. I mean, they could have focused just a little bit more, maybe when the Arnie, what a name, Arnie Johnson,
right?
Yeah, they could focus more on the shit that was happening to him at the prison. I feel like, make that more of the story and just have the Warrens be in the background a little bit more. But the Warrens are the characters that we fell in love with. But they kind of did that in the second movie. For a good chunk of the second movie, the Warrens are not in England. They're popping back to the Warrens occasionally, but they're kind of the B story in the beginning of the second movie. And they could have done that, I think, and maybe made it a little more scarier for this movie.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because that's my biggest issue with it is I went in wanting a horror, and I got like a dark detective thriller, which is competent and okay. Like
if that's what I wanted to watch, I think it did it pretty well. There were some points where I was bored, though.
Yeah, I think it did it okay. Like I don't think it's even a great detective thriller. Even like it's
right.
I don't know. It just kind of really bored me, and then like it all. There's a twist about the origin of what's going on.
Right.
That kind of consumes the second half of this film, and I'm intrigued by the twist and its implications for the Conjuring universe, but the focus of it in this film and how they dive into it, I didn't care. Like it was just kind of boring. It was good, but it was just boring good.
And this is not necessarily talking about what you were talking about, but just John Noble, when you put him in a film, I'm immediately going to be like, okay, John Noble.
Yeah, that definitely improved things.
Yes. Yeah. And I appreciate the way he was used, but I thought that it could have been done better. Definitely.
Yeah, it's that trope of, hey, I know a guy who has all of your answers, you should go talk to him. Yeah. But he's a little creepy and he's a little out of the way, and you're going to have to do it by yourself with nobody around you and all alone. It's that horror trope where it's like send him off to somebody who, he plays that creepy informational gatherer kind of person where it's just like, that's the person we go to help solve this issue.
Right.
But just know they may try to kill us while we're there too. We just don't know. And and I agree. I do love John Noble. For people who don't know, he is Walter Bishop in the TV show Fringe. He's Denethor and Lord of the Rings. Like all around, just one of the best actors ever. I fucking love John Noble.
Also, for video game fans, he plays a scarecrow in the Arkham series. Yeah. Or one of them. I don't know.
Just the last one, Arkham.
Just the last one.
City? No, Knight. Arkham Knight, yeah.
Yeah. He does a great job in that.
Great job. And again, just totally underutilized, which is another mark against this film. Like, you have somebody like John Noble. You utilize John Noble. You know, he's amazing.
So, should we... I know we didn't really talk too terribly much about this movie, but what else do you think there is really to say up front? I did like some of the things that are in this movie, and I think that a lot of the elements could have made a really good movie, and I recommend going to see it to at least finish the trilogy, you know? But the only thing I really want to talk about, I feel like we shouldn't talk about, because it does take it's like maybe a third of the way in the movie when they reveal it.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that, but it definitely is a spoiler, but because it's because she's alive, I guess, not because of how I don't know how to talk about it. It's harder to
say any more than that. But I like that it makes this movie different from the other two movies, which I appreciate, because the problem with the second movie was that it was the fucking same.
But it's just to go into my closing statement with it, though. It's just the problem is it's not, even though it's in a different direction than the first two movies, it's not as horrifying, and I still want that horror. Even you know, I'm okay with doing different cases of the Warrens. You know, there was mention of them doing a werewolf case, which makes an appearance in the briefly, I think, in The Nun. There's talk of werewolves in that movie, I think, but
they dealt with werewolves.
Yeah, I guess that was in their case files that they dealt with werewolves.
This is getting a tinge less believable for me.
Well, I think that's where my big issue with this film comes in. And, you know, it's a competent thriller. Again, it's not great. I give it 2.5 stars. The writing is kind of meh. You know, it needs a little extra work. It's written by David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, who wrote the second one, but he also wrote Aquaman and Wrath of the Titans. Like, he has that schlocky style of dialogue that passes. Yeah. It's good, but it's not superb writing or anything. Right. My issue with it, though, and they took creative liberties with the second one, and, you know, for whatever reason, I'm okay with that because it's a demon possession. It's whatever. Right. I don't believe it. Here, they're kind of glorifying a murderer, you know, by making it a demonic possession. You know, it wasn't his fault he murdered somebody. Right.
It's very heavily leaning towards making his legal argument the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm okay with that. You know, that's my biggest issue with this entire film. And I guess that really is what just drags my overall opinion down to this movie is that I don't know where I stand on that issue.
That's a good question. Well, I'll go ahead and give it my face, because it's not, like you said, it's competent. Like, there's nothing. There's things that I feel like are wrong with this movie, but the main thing is that it doesn't feel like the same series, besides the fact that the Warrens are a part of it. And their relationship, I feel like there was good stuff from their relationship in this movie. The way that Lorraine is looking after Ed, I think, is nice. Mm-hmm. But they both, and this might just be like, you know, new director trying to figure out how to work with them, but they both, in different parts of this movie, really lean into whatever accent they're trying to do, and then for the rest of the movie, they don't have hardly any accent at all. It's really funny to me. There's just other kind of things kind of like that just kind of felt like, okay, let's go make this movie. When, you know, like, I don't know, maybe if Patrick and Vera were able to have more time together for the scenes, maybe they would have read a little bit better and they would have made a better movie. But I think it still has the problems that you said, like it's glorifying this guy who probably just murdered somebody. Yeah, it just wasn't scary enough. And I think that's it. Oh, I wanted to mention one other thing. So there's a little kid in this who gets possessed, and when they do the body horror stuff with that was pretty fun. But I wanted to say this kid, Julian Hillard, he looks as if they took Stephen King and shrunk him down into a kid again. And then said, now do the scary shit from your books.
I like it. Oh, I like it. Yeah, that is another one of my issues with this movie, though, is it relies so heavily on that body horror trope of like, look, I'm breaking bones and contorting into a weird position. Like, there's like 4 times in this movie where they're just like, look at this creepy thing that's breaking its body. It's like, it's disturbing in the first movie. It was disturbing in the second movie. You're in their third movie, technically the 8th movie now of this whole universe where we've seen something similar to this. It's no longer scary in your universe. Stop doing it. I'm just done with it.
So, though, I feel like the way this is a little bit different than the other two, like the one contortionist scene that actually was really good because it was a more practical effect was when she got in the dumbwaiter and was that was a really good shot. This, I think, what was definitely leaned more heavily on the graphic effect editor, but I thought that it was done in such a way that I really enjoyed it. Like, because it was actually, like, from an artist standpoint, it was well executed. Like, I just know a lot of work went into that scene, and I could appreciate that it looked really good.
And you don't expect that kind of scare in a detective thriller, so it's like it does come across better in this, but I don't know, that stuff doesn't scare me because it's just, I don't know, it's just like a stock photo, or it's kind of like a stockpile audio effect where it's just
anyone can do that part of it. Or think to add that to their movie. But I'm just saying that from a special effects angle, it was very well executed. So kudos to that.
But I don't know. Overall, it was a hit. It was a hit and a miss. It was a bit disappointing for me. And of the 3 Conjuring films, the first Conjuring is my winner for this triumvirate we're doing here.
Yeah.
All around, in my opinion, it's a perfect horror film. Even if it is like a polished, nice blockbustery style horror, I'm okay with it. I'm all in. I love it. And of all of the 8 Conjuring films, I would say only 3 of them are worth watching, and that would be The Conjuring 2, and Annabelle Comes Home. Actually, I really just enjoyed that. It was silly.
It's not worth rushing out to the theater, but if you have HBO Max,
go ahead.
Just go ahead and watch it. You enjoy these characters, and who knows, you might be less critical than we are. That's why we have a show.
That's really where it comes down to. I say those 3 are the ones to worth watch, but I do think most people will find enjoyment in a lot of the other ones. Right. And I think of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, even though that's a ridiculous title, and when they just did The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2, they should have just went with The Conjuring 3. But whatever. Who am I to complain? I'm only a critic. But go ahead and watch it. I do recommend it for the average liker of the Conjuring universe. Like, if you've enjoyed The Conjuring so far, you'll definitely enjoy the Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah, I enjoyed elements of it, enough of it to finish the whole movie.
Right. But yeah, it's not in my faves of the year, and I don't think it's worth watching of the whole universe overall. But whatever, they're only 8 movies in. They're only 8 movies in. Marvel's like 24. They still got a ways to go.
Yeah, and they have a lot more blunders, for sure.
Definitely.
So, I would agree with you. The first movie is the winner, though the second movie is fun. And there's things about that second movie that I enjoy that I think I would return to just as often as that first movie. So,
right.
But
I would definitely watch them back to back.
Yeah, they're great. They're a great pair, definitely. But Conjuring wins. Can't beat the OG.
I've been the Green Traveler from Gorsh.
And I am the Faceless Leon. safe shadows, and good fright. Green and Faceless on the Couch is a proud production of Fiction Works 19. If you like the show, please show your support by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Like, follow, subscribe, wherever you might listen. We also now have a Patreon account. If you feel so inclined to support us in a financial manner, please become a patron by visiting patreon.com/greenandfaceless. You can also find more information about us on our Facebook account or on the Fiction Works 19 Instagram account. Thank you so much for listening.